But first, how about a couple of spicy predictions? What is up, everybody? Welcome back. As of the recording of this video, some of the biggest news to hit the Warhammer world in a while has just surfaced. That's right, the announcement of Warhammer 40,000 10th edition. We all kind of knew it was coming, but to get an official announcement with some of the features and core changes already revealed has me just a little bit excited. Pretty much everything in the announcement I was generally a fan of. It seems like they're taking the game in a good direction. And I want to list a couple of my favorite things that maybe people didn't pick up on as much. But before that, I have, as usual? I don't know, it's the first time I'm doing this. Maybe it'll be a usual thing, who knows? A couple of predictions for what I think some of these announcements might lead to down the line. Prediction number the first. I think in 10th edition we're going to see a fulfilling Crusade system. They already hinted that 10th edition would bring about essentially Crusade 2.0, and as a fan of 9th edition's Crusade, it's basically the only way I could kind of stomach playing 9th edition. I think what we'll see is a lot more fulfilling Crusade mechanics throughout the entire faction span. In early 9th edition, some of the early codexes, AdMech included, had a bit of a lackluster or kind of anemic Crusade mechanics that ended up just being not very good or totally useless, whereas other books further down the line, things like Tyranids, Genestealer Cult, Eldari, things like that, had some really cool mechanics attached to their Crusade. So I think it took them a little bit of dev time to kind of nail down what they wanted Crusade to feel like, and I think by the end of 9th they basically got there. So I think in 10th we're going to see a lot more of an enriched Crusade experience no matter what faction you're playing. Prediction numero dos. I think that 10th edition is going to be the edition for nostalgia bait. We had a trickling of that towards the end of 9th with the Leagues of Votann finally coming out, but we need not look further than the trailer released for 10th edition, having, for example, a Redemptor Dreadnought with the classic box Dreadnought las cannon missile launcher loadout. We have all of these new Tyranid designs, which are also reminiscent of the, I don't know, I think they're like Rogue Trader era sort of Tyranid designs. Things like, I've heard talk of like the classic Screamer Killer getting a new sort of upgrade and things of that nature. So I imagine that more old favorites will be reimagined for the future. I'm hoping to get that fatty Genestealer Cult Patriarch back on his throne, but I can't actually say what will be happening. My third prediction is that codexes are going to have a slightly different role in this edition compared to last, with the announcement that the rules indexes will be free and that every army that you field is going to be a 2-page spread no matter which army you choose. And the sort of one in, one out, with rules being less supplemental and more a replacement, I think there's a lot of room for codexes to develop less as options for your sub-factions, but more as an army of Renown-style, more focused play style, and a variety of different focuses and configurations to suit the army that you want to play. I think Armies of Renown was kind of a miss overall in 9th edition, but I think with this new style of army rule being presented as a single 2-page spread, no matter what you choose, the codexes have a lot of room and honestly many pages to fill with potential army loadouts and configurations, each with their own unique kind of mechanics, bonuses, and things of that nature. And I think it could be a really good way to carry out what Armies of Renown was trying to do. The next prediction I have are a bit of an oddball. I predict that this will be the edition we see the return of both Renegades and Heretics, and also Inquisition warbands. And I got two big fat words that I think heavily support this prediction. Kill Team. GW has been off the wall releasing all sorts of loyalist Kill Team products and heretical Kill Team products in all of these configurations that don't really have 40k rule support, from the Armies to the recently announced Beastmen to the Navy Breachers. I think that we're going to see an amalgamation of both sides of the coin here, with some Renegades army lists and Inquisition army lists, focusing on bringing together these kind of disparate groups of models in ways that you can actually construct a proper army out of them. And the cool thing about doing this is, because of the 2-page kind of army rule spread, again, they have a lot more room to design these kind of more niche armies and make sure that they're takeable. And you could even do some faction combining with these army rules without too much effort, is what it kind of sounds like. So I am both excited and pretty confident in that prediction coming true. And my last but not least prediction for Warhammer 40k 10th edition is better, more frequent balance updates. As it seems to be moving towards a more digital first rules system, with the rules being freely available online and data sheets also being freely available online, I believe that this will allow GW to much more quickly adapt the rules for a shifting meta and correctly correct over and underbalancing issues swiftly, rather than waiting for quarterly publications, half-yearly publications to go out. A lot of the issue with 9th edition balancing was that GW was often ended up fixing problems that no longer existed in the competitive scene, because they would write something in March and it wouldn't be released until June, when a lot of other armies or components and new units had been released and kind of taken care of the problem by itself. But that is it for my predictions. Now let's go on to the things that we do know about 10th edition, with my 5 favorite items from the announcement. My 5th favorite announcement from the 10th edition spiel is the loss of the morale phase and a change to something called Battleshock. And this is really just a nitpicky nerd thing about me being the lore head that I am. Around 70 to 80% of the factions in 40k are absolutely immune to fear or losing morale on the battlefield. Notably, Space Marines famously know no fear. Necrons are immortal, kind of sentient, soulless machines. Tyranids are literally a hive mind. I need not go on. But the change from that into a much more flavorful sort of Battleshock thing, you know, representing being pinned down or just being out of position and caught off guard, is a much better way to represent the feelings of battlefield attrition in ways that aren't just fear. My 4th favorite thing about the announcement was the focus on data sheets and how the rules are going to be mostly contained on the data sheet itself and not in various auxiliary components or stratagems. The stratagem bloat in 9th was real bad, with only about 20 to 30% of stratagems for each faction being even useful. It felt like there was just way too much bloat there, and it's really nice to see that refocused on the datasheet's rules itself, with a couple of additional stratagems to help in very specific, more niche circumstances. My 3rd change is, it's kind of two, but my 3rd favorite change is both OC or objective control and core, or rather the lack of it. I thought in 9th edition that core was a good idea, but kind of executed poorly. And in the not leaked but revealed datasheet for the Termagant, there was no actual core keyword included, so I have to assume that that's being yeeted from the game. Along with that is the objective secured ability, which is being replaced by the much more easy to manage OC or objective control stat. Instead of trying to figure out how many objective control troops you have on a point, or if the opponent has objective controlled, or if you both have objective control, and then figuring out how many bodies are on it, and then figuring out how many units this unit counts as when it's on an object. It's kind of a mess to figure out who controls objectives sometimes. But by simply tallying up the total amount of objective control points on the objective, you can figure out how and who owns the objective in 10th edition. A much easier and more streamlined way of dealing with essentially the same problem. Much, much better, in my opinion. My second favorite change, or at least hint of a change, is that GW said they aim to make the games a much shorter experience. Including setup and teardown time, games are often in the realm of 4+ hours, especially when you get up there in points, all the way up to like 2,000 points or so. And that's a whole day of mental activity. I am absolutely wiped after a single game, usually. So to get this, just the time taken, shrunk down even an hour would be absolutely fantastic. And I think a big game changer to the accessibility of the game and getting new people to try it out. It's a lot to ask someone to spend an entire afternoon and evening playing a tabletop game with you instead of like an hour. And finally, my favorite change that they announced is not a change that they actually announced. It's not the free indices. It's not the free core rules. It's that GW feels like they're really listening to the player base and community. As far as I can tell and what I've seen around the World Wide Web, most people are very in alignment that all of these announcements for 10th edition have been gangbusters. They've been super popular among pretty much every segment of the player base I've had any interaction with. And that's a very, very good sign. GW is hopefully finally starting to take the community a little bit more seriously and listening to the people that actually play the game who know what they're talking about when they complain about the game. Hopefully this becomes a lasting change in the way GW approaches its products. And judging by the response they're getting, I hope they're listening to that response and seeing how easy it is and easy it makes their job to just incorporate the things that we're asking for, essentially. But that is it, my top 5 predictions and top 5 favorites for Warhammer 40k 10th edition. What do you think I got right? What do you think I got wrong? Let me know in the comments below. And tell me about your predictions as well. What do you think is coming up in this widely kind of arbitrarily important 10th version of the Warhammer 40k rules? If you enjoyed this video and you want more Warhammer lore, kit bashes, maybe an occasional news piece here or there, although to call this news is pretty generous. Make sure to stay subscribed to the channel so you don't miss a single video, and as always, feel free to throw out a like as well. It always helps the channel out. And I will see you guys next time. Peace!